Hey, Nikki.
Hey, Selena.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Sweet Tea and TV.
I love how you pull out your NPR voice for that every time.
And this has been fresh air. You just take it down a notch, you know what I'm saying?
I do. I know what you're saying.
And to think that Mom wouldn't let me leave the message on the message machine when we were little.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
By
sorry.
we, I mean me, and I wasn't allowed to. She always had a business and said it was a professional.
Right. Yeah. Well,
but I sounded like this.
I'm sure.
It ate.
Probably exactly what you sounded like.
I like to think so. And I like that I just carbon dated myself with the answering machine. All right, for those of you who don't know, an answering machine was something that predated a voicemail. And for those of you who don't know, that voicemail is that thing that you don't set up on your phone. And for those of you who don't know, no, that's really it.
No, there's an important one.
Oh, which one?
People make phone calls.
Oh, right.
It all
There's
starts
this thing
with
called
a phone
a
call.
telephone.
It all starts with a phone call.
Yeah, not a cell phone, a telephone. So I was going to ask you a question. It's a two-parter.
Oh, Lord.
It's easy.
I'm going to forget the first part by the time you get to the second part.
You...
It's just how my brain works.
Oh, well, I'll ask them separately.
Okay, I'm not going to make eye contact with you so I can register.
You can only eat one kind of food for the rest of your life. What would it be? Oh, the real left field one. I'm going to talk to Phil.
I feel like I'm waffling. I'm like mentally. Oh, I am mentally running through meals, and I'm thinking breakfast food of some kind. And what I'm torn between is toast or cereal. I can eat toast any time of the day, any day of the week, regardless of how I'm feeling.
Okay.
Toast with butter on it.
That's delicious.
Cereal, same thing. I can eat cereal for dinner.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's more common. I'm gonna be sexist for a second. For women to just come in the door and be like, especially if they're in charge of themselves for that night, they don't have to
worry about anybody else.
Not worry.
I say worry.
Okay. So they don't have to worry about anybody else. They're having chips and salsa for dinner. They're having...
Oh, man, I miss chips and salsa for dinner.
That's the single days right there.
Good point. Oh, my gosh. I had forgotten about that.
Chips and salsa dinner, cereal for dinner. Just like whatever's like right there.
Toast?
Women are very pragmatic like that.
I really could be like a very minimal eater. Mm-hmm. You give me a couple shelf-stable foods, I can eat for days.
That's one of my favorite things, actually, is just eggs on toast.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I just fry up 2 eggs,
mm-hmm.
2 pieces of toast, sourdough,
yep.
little jam on one of them to make it like a sweet and savory.
Yeah. Maybe put some bacon on it.
I put some French toast on the side of that. I put some waffles on the side of that. I put some hash browns on the side of that. I put some pancakes on the side of that.
Give me a mimosa and we're set.
Yeah. And then that's all I really need.
And I'm like a super minimalist eater.
Simple. Well, I think this will be a nice tee up for this week's extra sugar. So without going too far into it right now, but let's go on that cereal train for a second. Mm-hmm. If you only could eat one cereal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh.
Kix. Kid tested. Mother approved.
I'm thinking Cheerios. Like a Honey Nut Cheerio.
Okay. Oh, just the standard bear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my favorite cereal, we've been talking about this, I really love a Fruity Pebble. And I really love a Fruit Loop, the fruity ones. But I wonder if I'm feeling sick or something, if maybe I'm not feeling that, like, exotic with my cereal choice, and I only get one thing for the rest of my life, I could probably eat a Honey Nut Cheerio most of the time.
Yeah, I get it. Well, because, like, sometimes you don't always want something that's so sweet.
Right.
That would be tough.
Right. And so you only get the one choice. I can't promise you I always only want Fruity Pebbles or Fruit Loops.
Right. And then for some people I know, being locked into eating one thing for the rest of their life would literally be the worst thing that you could ever do to them.
It would ruin it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Which one? Anything?
The one thing for the rest of your life. The one cereal.
One cereal for the rest of my life.
Question.
But my first question is what food for the rest of your life?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were just agreeing with me. I thought you just agreed that toast or cereal.
Well, toast and cereal are delicious.
I thought you agreed that was the right answer.
But didn't you hear me with the waffles and the pancakes?
Oh, yeah, now you have to answer both questions then, I guess.
Okay, so I'll start with the cereal then and say that I think that, you're going to think I'm crazy, I think I might have to go with something like a Smart Start. because it's like just like a little sweet. Okay, I know. What have you had?
I don't think I
before?
know what this is. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm
It's
envisioning.
Kellogg's,
I'm envisioning like fiber.
but it's sweeter than that. It's. I'm now. I wish it was part of the cereals that I had gotten because it's good. It's just it's not Fruity Pebbles, but I also couldn't. But Smart Start feels like something I could eat every day.
Right. I get that. I get that line. That line of thought.
So I guess that's it for cereals. And then Nikki's she's done Googled it and she gave it the disapprove. And then but I would not want to eat cereal every day either.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's a good point.
If I could only eat one food for the rest of my life, I think it would probably be like peanut butter on some kind of bread.
That's a good choice.
If I think about a food that I have loved like my entire life and I can just like eat it anytime and be okay with it, it's peanut butter. I mean,
crunchy or creamy?
So I would have before said, don't you even talk to me about crunchy peanut butter.
What?
But I accidentally bought some this last year, to which like Casey was very upset about. So I ate the whole jar because I just didn't want to be wasteful. And I didn't realize it till I opened it.
I'm that same way about everything. I just don't want to be wasteful.
It's fine.
You can't throw the cake away.
Can't throw away the sheet cake. And I was okay with it. Like now I didn't get any more.
So strange. I would have pegged you as a crunchy peanut butter, the superior peanut butter products. I would have pegged you that way.
Yeah. Huh. I'm a creamy peanut butter kind of gal.
Kyle and I were talking recently about how, like, genuinely sorry I feel for people with a peanut allergy. To never know the joy of peanut butter.
Doesn't he have a peanut allergy?
He's a tree nut allergy.
A tree nut. Okay, that's different. So
They're
no
very
pine
different.
nuts.
That's right. No
Okay.
pine nuts, no pecans, no walnuts. So he does not know the joy of a pecan pie.
But you could make him pecan pie without pecans.
I don't know why you would.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that blasphemy.
I know. I wonder if there's something else so that you could, because the filling
What would you
is
make
good.
a pecan pie?
Well, I didn't have a lot of time to think it through.
Okay,
the
so
statement
you're
through.
just throwing crap out.
But what
now.
if you put like
No, we
just
were
something else that's
making stuff up.
crunchy in there, but not that?
Okay.
Okay.
We'll move on.
All right. I did a southern faux pas.
Awful.
Wah, wah, wah.
Speaking of a southern faux pas, Ted,
Ted.
am I right?
Such this guy. This guy.
This
Get
freaking
out of
guy.
here, as you would say in the South.
So, season 2, episode 21, we are very nearly done with this season. And I am very nearly done with Ted after this episode. Spoiler alert. So this one's called Ted Bear. Mary Jo faces a personal crisis when Ted, her ex-husband, re-enters her life. IMDb is brief this week. Mary Jo believes that Ted has changed and that he wants a reconciliation in spite of his approaching wedding to Tammy. This one aired March 21st, 1988. It was written by LBT and directed by Hal Holbrook.
That's exciting. Yeah.
I think he directed the last episode too, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. We'll get
She
there.
keeps the excitement. So general reaction, stray observations.
Okay. My first general reaction is, let me just pose something to you, okay? Let me see if I have this right. Ted misses Mary Jo for the following reasons. Because she's mature, remembers the Kennedy assassination, has heard I Want to Hold Your Hand, cooks a mean beef Wellington, better than Mom's, mixes a good martini, gives a great massage, keeps everything in order like color-coding his shirts and socks, and filed all the receipts in his wallet. God, that is so beautiful.
What a woman.
Oh, man.
I miss Mary Jo, and I was never married to her. I tell Kyle all the time, I need a wife. Sounds good.
Sounds so nice. So, yeah, this really bothered me. The whole thing.
I really liked this storyline. So I feel like it comes at a really good time at the end of a season. Because, again, we get that arc of character growth for Mary Jo. So it kind of started at the end of season 1 and then kind of follows that same routine this season where she had sort of like a come to Mary Jo moment is what I'm going to call it, where she kind of comes to terms with something she feels really strongly about and needs to stand up for herself with. And it's happening again almost at the exact same time this season, except she's confronting a pretty big demon in her past.
Ted.
Indeed, a demon.
And his name is Ted.
So I really liked that.
Yeah, I totally agree that I was all in on this episode. I will tell you another general thing for me that I what was hard for me to watch is Mary Jo. For most of the episode, it feels like she's falling for all of Ted's.
Waffling?
Yeah, she's falling for the stuff.
Mhm.
You know, after being on the other side of that equation for so long, she can't see through his manipulation.
There's a point kind of maybe 2/3 of the episode through that scene. Maybe they don't show it. Maybe she just talks about it later. But where she describes them standing in the doorway of her kids sleeping,
Yeah.
and for a brief glimmer of a moment, they're a family. I think that's a pivotal moment for her.
Oh,
And I
like
think, well,
pushing her the other way?
No. I don't think I'm articulating that well. I think that explains a lot of her overlooking some of the other things.
I totally agree. They
Yeah.
have kids together.
Yeah.
It does complicate things. The other thing that I think that complicates it is this whole history that we know they have, that she put him through medical school.
Mhm.
So I think, so like she did all the hard work, but she didn't get to reap any of the benefits.
Yeah.
Tammy's reaping the benefits. And then
Tammy, who doesn't even know about the Kennedy assassination.
God. Which, by the way, that's really?
Hmm.
She didn't go to history class.
I don't know.
That wasn't a big deal then. You know what I'm saying? We moved on. So, you know, I also like there's this aspect we have generally had set up for us along the way that she has like low self-esteem. And he is, and that's what the manipulation is. Like he is like talking a lot about her looks and stuff, and all those things that I'm imagining that she's really craving. Things that it sounds like, and she even says later on, like, he didn't say these things to me, because we get Suzanne saying, "What you talking about? He always said it to me.
said those things to me all the time.
He said it once, he said it 15,000 times." So, yeah.
Speaking of Suzanne, can I give you a stray observation about her?
Sure.
I really liked her hair when they were sitting around talking about Mary Jo's predicament. It was a lot less pageant girl and much more like late 20s, early 30s women of the 80s. I'm showing Selena a picture. It's just nice.
Yeah,
it's got some good fluffiness.
Fawcett.
Oh, yeah. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
I just liked it.
Thought you were going to say Mary Jo's hair.
Did I say Mary Jo? I meant Suzanne.
No, for whatever reason, for some reason I thought that's who you were.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
It looks,
she generally has good hair.
Mary Jo?
Yeah.
It's that 80s curl.
Yeah.
It's a little, they really foof it up.
Yeah.
But I love her hair color, and it's not just because I'm also a redhead. So the other thing though that struck me in just a general reaction way was being grateful for Julia, because I thought she said something that was really important, even if Mary Jo couldn't hear her at the time, was that it didn't sound like he's changed much at all if he's trying to get back together with her while engaged to someone else.
Yes, that was super wise.
Because it's just it's the same pattern of behavior.
Right.
So
if he's going to do it to Tammy, and he did it to you.
Yeah. I did have this one thought that I feel like may be a little different. I came around to seeing things the way that you did, actually, about this being a growth episode. But on initial reaction, because she did seem to be falling for it, I thought this was going to be another circular plot. You know, on the face of it, he wants to get back together. Then Mary Jo considers it, and they don't get back together. So you kind of end up where you started. But thinking more on it, like, this is good character development for her. She is falling for it a lot throughout the episode, but with JD's phone call, she realizes she's totally outgrown him.
Yeah, I think they had to fill 22 minutes. And so they had to come up with some way to have her sort of like continuing to go back and have those conversations with him so that she could sort of grow along the way. And I think some of the other characters are planting seeds throughout the episode of the quote unquote old Mary Jo. So like Charlene says at one point, like about serving punch at the wedding and knowing you'd probably do it. And then Julia said that he probably had found out Tammy was infertile and wanted to ask Mary Jo to carry the babies. So she didn't argue. She didn't act surprised by those things. Like, she knows that about herself. And it was also kind of a nice way to refresh us on the kind of person she is. And I think they had to continue having these interactions with Ted so she could keep having a reason to interact with him again so they could fill up the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Is it telling that an episode almost solely about Ted, it's still Anthony and not him who sits his son down to give him some advice?
Yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Yeah, that says a lot.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was
So
a really
Anthony's amazing.
right.
Mhm.
I thought Phooey. I thought that was like a really good writer's choice,
Yeah.
because I think it's like a way of telling us something without hitting us on the head with it.
And also cool for Anthony's character, someone who had spent some time in prison, to like serve as a father figure for someone. I don't know how to articulate that well, but like also kind of, although we know that he,
Well, someone who's lived a life.
right.
Someone who's like not necessarily, I mean, how inspiring is it? Okay, it's not necessarily, I'm not saying it's not inspiring to go to medical school, because obviously that's
easy.
anybody can do it. But like, you get the idea that Ted, like, you know, if someone else helped him do that, he's had help along the way, is what I'm
Right,
saying.
yeah.
Anthony has like pulled himself along,
Mm-hmm.
and Anthony has taken like a really tragic occurrence when he was just becoming a man, and he has like turned, like, he didn't let that take him all the way down,
Mhm.
and he didn't even do anything wrong.
And now he's a male role model, someone that a kid thinks is one, really cool, and then two, really wants to listen to him.
Right.
That's cool.
It was nice, and it's
Sorry.
always good to see Anthony.
That's always nice to see him.
So there's some low-key fat shaming right at the top of the episode. Did that feel like that to you?
Oh, about the big
swimsuit?
woman? Yeah.
Yeah.
It did, sure.
So I didn't love that. I mean, I only say that because we've already established a history of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so just saying, it hasn't seemed to go away. Another thing that came back up in this episode, that daggum metal detector.
Oh, yeah.
How many times are we going to talk about Quint's metal detector? But I did like that it's threaded.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of nice.
He's got a hobby.
I mean, who doesn't want
Talk
to get...
about character development.
Yeah, he's really growing. It's kind of funny that JD, now JD doesn't say it, we hear through Mary Jo that JD has said of Ted,
He's not tall.
he's not tall. And I thought that was interesting for a few reasons. So I had to look up their heights, because then I was like,
Oh.
to me, Richard Gilliland looks not tall.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, but to me, Ted looks taller. And he is. So JD's actually, or Richard Gilliland is actually 2 inches shorter than, what's his face in real life. That's stray.
That is straight.
That's a stray. You know what I'm saying?
I also feel like JD didn't just say, and he's not tall. He said he's a short weenie or something like that. Short weenie
Probably.
who can't even like mentor his son.
Yeah, Mary Jo is definitely cleaning it up on the back end.
Yeah.
And then this last thing stood out to me as, it felt like a word that was in the writer's head versus something that the characters necessarily would say. Everybody kept using the term reconciliation, which is like, to me, feels like a very specific term. Like, I feel like you just said, like, we'll get back together.
Yeah.
And every single person kept saying, reconcile.
He's aiming for a reconciliation.
Yeah, and like characters who weren't part, like later on, Ted says it, but he wasn't in the room with all the women when they were talking. So that just stood out to me.
Just a good word.
And that's what you call another stray.
That is the strayest of the stray.
Let's talk about some things that we liked.
So I'm realizing now maybe this could have been a stray or a general reaction, but I got to thinking about love languages at one point in the episode, because
Okay.
it's when JD, when I wrote these notes the first time, I keep calling him Ted. And like, I really don't like Ted. I actually really like JD, I think. But anyway, he's on the phone with her and he mentions her tire pressure.
Mhm.
Is it weird that made my heart flutter?
No.
I was like, how romantic. He remembered her tire pressure was low and is like going to fix it for her.
Well, it's like a pragmatic romantic thing.
It's like the most
But it's
banal,
thoughtful.
like, right. And so that gets me into love languages,
Mhm.
where my love language is like acts of service. Like, I love for someone to think of me and do something because they think it will make my life easier.
Mhm.
And whether it actually makes my life easier or not is irrelevant. But like, for my husband to do something because he knows it's going to make my life easier, I love that. And I just wondered if any of that resonated with you.
I thought all of the things that he said sounded like someone who really cared.
Yeah.
And I guess what really struck me is that we've gotten all those things that I set up at the top, where we're talking about the Beef Wellington, and here you did this for me, and you did this for me, and you did this for me too, and I really enjoyed it when you massaged my feet, and I really, you know what I'm saying? And it was all me, 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 me.
Mm-hmm.
And JD was all you.
Mm-hmm.
And it did feel like a little bit more like a partnership, and like, I don't want you to go out of your way, and I just want you to be safe, and I just want you to be well. And that felt more like unconditional love to me.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the throwback to Suzanne and Ted's brief affair?
It was brought back in a very like Suzanne manner. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I put that in my likes because I
Uh-huh.
appreciate that they kind of weave, like you said earlier, weaving that thread. But it's just always so very brief to be something that to me, as like,
An
if I thought
engagement?
about my friends, if I thought about my friends, that would be a pretty pivotal moment in our friendship. And it's probably something I'd have trouble reconciling in my heart. We'd talk about it a lot.
Reconciling. That word could come from anywhere.
We'd talk about it a lot, and it just continues to be like this little, oh yeah, they were together. Oh yeah, they were engaged.
Right. After one gynecology appointment and a day.
So what did you like in this episode?
Well, I liked Mary Jo and Charlene's very brief dance party to It's My Party. But what I really loved was like the whole setup for that, just as a reminder, is that she's talking about the terrible music that rock music, rock and roll.
God help him.
The devil's music. But she's like talking about how awful it was, and she's like, our time was so innocent. So her and Charlene start dancing to it. So she's made this point like ours is innocent, and at the end she makes this hand gesture where she's like like, hello, this is what I mean. And it was just like this, it was just good acting. Plus I love a dance party.
I was so stuck on I just will never understand how it's almost like the Carlton. I just don't understand how people make their bodies move like that and like snap on beat and where these dance moves come from. I don't understand.
Are you saying you think it was bad dancing?
No.
Okay.
No, I think it was
because you said the Carlton.
It's the sort of like hip moving with hands move. Like there's too much movement in my opinion. My body doesn't move like that. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I've not seen you
dance.
It.
I don't dance like that.
I don't dance.
I really try not to.
I come from the footloose tradition.
We don't dance in our house.
I come from a town that does not dance. So I also like the line that you already mentioned earlier, which was, knowing Ted, he'll probably ask me to serve punch, and Charlene saying, yep, and knowing you'll probably do it. I thought that was well delivered.
It's a good friend.
I liked all the eyes around it that they were making at each other. Not like making eyes, but like all the facial expressions. I liked Anthony's argument to Quint for not cussing. He says, it makes you common. It means you're like everybody else, that you can't think for yourself, and I don't want to be like everybody else. So let me be clear. I cuss. I don't cuss on this podcast because that's an agreement that Nikki and I have. And also, like, I don't need to. It's fine.
Right.
And I do think that, like, it could be well placed and not well placed, but I love this argument for a kid.
So I'm glad you're bringing this up because it is something I've waffled on myself. Like, I don't know when the day comes. Like, right now, my kids are in an age where they think butt is a bad word. So one day they will come home and Vinny will have taught them some words they shouldn't know. That's the kid's name in the episode. So I don't know how to have that discussion with them because Kyle and I our preference is that we don't cuss as a family. I don't know how you explain that to a kid. I don't know why I feel that way. I've never been a huge cusser. I do cuss, but I've never been. I have friends that like F word is every other word. They just it comes naturally to them. I can't do that. It's just not natural to me. I've never, like, as a family, we never really cussed in front of one another. So I don't know how I'm going to explain it, but I liked the way he explained it.
Yeah, I thought that was nice.
Sometimes you just have to use a cuss word.
Line for line.
I should. Then I would just have to remember it.
This might be a segment. Where you'll just pull random, like, different quotes from the show. And sometimes it won't even match up. Like, they'll be asking you about something and you just, like, have a Julia rant.
Oh.
And come back and tell us about it.
Yeah, that's true.
It'll be great. Not confusing for them at all.
Sure.
Anything for the show, am I right?
Right, that's all about the show.
Sorry, kids. I always like getting insight into Suzanne's marriages and what didn't work for her. Can I read these lines?
Please.
Okay. So she says, all of my ex-husbands have tried to reconcile with me. It never works. Oh, sure, they'll make their promises the first few weeks. They'll say things like, okay, we'll never try and come into your bathroom again. Or, we'll never make love to you on the days you just had your hair done. Or, we'll never ask you to do anything other than lie the way you normally sleep, flat on your back, head on the pillow. But that never lasts. And I love it. I think it's great.
She's got standards.
Yeah, she's got really rigorous standards for things that don't matter.
They matter to her.
They do, and that's what matters.
That's what matters. That's true. Every time she recollects previous marriages, I'm like, oh, Suzanne.
I think I would have liked it if she had just stopped after, we'll never ask you to do anything.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
I'd be like, cool.
Perfect.
That sounds wonderful. Let me get some of that. I loved everything. I had a lot of likes in this one. I better be giving it a 5, I guess. So I don't remember.
Only time will tell.
It's gonna be like a 1.
Hated this episode.
I loved everything Mary Jo said at the end. She tells Ted all he ever mentions is what she can do for him. So we've talked about this already to some extent, but that was just something that really was a strong part of the episode for me. And I think, again, it ties into what we're talking about in terms of Mary Jo's growth. Mm-hmm. I also thought that it was a really, really nice note to end the episode on. Mm-hmm. And I swear this is my last like. 127. For me, there was a little ambiguity on Ted wanting to get back together. And I like that too. Mm. But I wanted Mary Jo either way, no matter what he thought. I wanted her to walk away thinking that's what he wanted. I think she needed it.
So you are not sure he actually really wanted to get together?
To me, I read it as ambiguous as to whether he was going to try and push that conversation forward where it seemed like he was headed before she went and took that call. I couldn't tell if he totally switched gears and because you get the sense he has a fragile ego. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I imagine that Ted never wants to really be turned down. Mm-hmm. And so I could see a character like him. I could see him being like, I've never really, reconcile. Mm-hmm. And just on the spot coming up with that, no matter what the truth was. Mm-hmm. Or was he really surprised? And honestly, I wasn't sure which one it was. And because we don't really get to see Ted's side of it, we don't get like let's say they had like pulled a clip before then where it just showed him with a ring box or something. Like he's going to re-ask her to marry him or whatever the case is. Or we don't get a snippet of him later on confirming one way or the other. So I'm just not sure. What did you think it was?
I thought for sure he was gaslighting her when he said, no, what? No, I wasn't thinking about that. I mean, I just think that he is getting older as a person. I think getting older as a person sounds weird. I think he's getting older. I think he's realizing the stuff that really matters in life. And I think part of that is coming to terms with the fact that he had something good and gave it up. Yeah. And I think that I felt like he was totally gaslighting her. He came up with those lies pretty quickly. So to your point, maybe he really wasn't sure, but I felt like he's also just a liar and can come up with them quickly. And had also been kind of in his own head maybe about where these things were coming from. So he just fed her back the things that were in his head. But I think he really wanted to get back with her.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I do also get this sense too, like a lot of things had to do with Tammy's age. And it just sort of strikes me that like, people may think they want to be, and I'm going to say people, not necessarily a man or a woman. People may think that they want to be with someone who is younger, but once they are, all that reminds them of is that they're older.
That they're old, yeah.
And that's got to be hard.
Yeah.
In its own way.
You're also not, so it's like sitting down with a niece or a nephew or a younger cousin. Yeah, and you sit there and you realize we have nothing in common.
Right.
Like use social media. Both of us use social media. We use it for totally different reasons.
Mhm.
Your For You page looks very different than mine. You know, like the overlap ends there. And you realize after a little while, once the sort of sparks are gone, you're like, ah, crap, we got nothing in common.
Right. And it's just, there is
You
something.
hear that, Kyle? Grass is not greener.
There is something to be said for like an instant bond that you can feel with someone your age, because pretty much wherever they grew up, you're going to have some things in common. Music, TV shows, something.
And that's not to say age difference couples can't work. I don't know. I've never been in one. So what, who am I to say that? But I could see where that would be really hard.
Well, Casey is much, much, much older than me.
Just like you're much, much, much older than me, I'm sure.
So much. 3 months.
So much. Too much.
But that 3 months used to really count.
It still does.
That was all my likes.
Well,
that's what we're still talking about, right?
Sure. We also incidentally just covered my dislike, which was Ted.
Oh, yeah.
All the
same.
mixed messaging. Again, I saw it as gaslighting and
Mhm.
like taking her for a ride. I really didn't like that. That was my big dislike.
He was definitely my big dislike. But it was like everything he said and did. His creep
Just him.
factor was
Yeah.
also off the charts.
He's a good indicator of a man of a certain wealth in the 80s.
It's something. I mean, he's like referring to Tammy's firm thighs.
Mm-hmm.
As far as butts go, yours is unequaled. I'm a surgeon and I can spot fine tissue from 100 yards away. Hot.
That didn't turn you on.
Really got me. You know what I'm saying?
Check out my fine tissue.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, baby.
Cool.
Look at that fine tissue.
It does. It sounds like a really horrible pickup line. And then the one that really got me. So when they get back to the house and they're like talking, he says, "You always look so enticing in bed, like a puppy, playful but fragile." And he does say fragile.
And Mary Jo doesn't say like, "Can you just leave now?"
Right. She was into it. She liked it.
She likes to be told she's cute.
It's just like enticing puppy in a
If
sexual
I had a
context.
quarter for every time I've been called a puppy.
I just so not for me. Is what I'm trying to say.
I don't like Ted. Ted's just not for me.
Yeah. You want to rate this sucker?
I do.
Okay.
I'm going with Amtrak Prospectors.
Oh,
You like
yeah. That's nice.
Because they said Quint was could find money on an Amtrak with his metal detector.
Mhm.
I give it I'm questioning this rating now.
I'm questioning mine too.
I'm committing. 4.85 out of a 5.
Oh, okay.
I really am questioning. I think I'm going to, you know what? For the record, I'm going to go back to 4. I'm giving it a 4.
Okay.
I really liked this episode.
Okay.
I loved I always love when we have character specific storylines. So we just came off an episode with Charlene. It was all about Charlene and her journey and who she is as a person. I like that we get a Mary Jo one, especially when the whole point of the episode is to show you how much a person has grown.
Mm-hmm.
So when Mary Jo got to have her, in the last episode, Charlene had her coming to Jesus moment when she literally told her pastor, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I feel like Mary Jo had that when she walked back to the table after talking to Ted and was like, you can't keep up with me. You can't meet my needs.
Right.
I loved that. I just love that. So it's just really cool to watch her become the woman that I think she was meant to be, but didn't get a chance to be before she got married to Ted.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I had given this one a 3.6. I have since,
Revised.
because I said I can't,
up. Okay.
yeah, I can't have 100 likes and be like, a 2. So it's not a perfect system. So from a 3.6 to a 4.2, out of 5 unequaled butts. Yeah. I like that it was realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Charlene's episode, speaking of that felt realistic. Her having some issues with sunlight in her eyes. I feel like this one's realistic. Exes do come back into the picture. It's common for people to seek advice from their friends or coworkers. I like that. And I same as you. I really like that Mary Jo got a confidence boost and saw her value in the end.
Yeah.
It's what we want to see for the people that we started. I mean, you're watching them all the time,
Yeah.
So you want good things for
Especially
the people that
us.
you're rooting for.
All the time.
All the time. Do you have any combination references?
Just Amtrak.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm putting it here because it's possibly unknown for some people. It's not quite 80s because it does still exist, but it feels like a thing of the past. It's just basically a people train.
So Amtrak, don't come on the show.
It's kind of expensive. So come on the show if you're going to give us free tickets. But like, I'm not paying for it. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. I did not have any combos. How about 80s things?
Do you know what a Mr. Squiggly is?
So this is in references I had to look up. I got stuck. Did you find anything?
No, and I thought I knew exactly what it was.
What did you think it was?
I thought it was a little pen that had a weight inside it.
And it vibrates? Okay.
Yes.
I hear what it sounds like, but that's not...
Yes.
It's not what I mean. I don't mean a personal pen, okay?
But yes, and it makes little squiggles.
Okay.
That's what I thought it was.
So I was only able to find... Because I didn't know... I found a Mr. Squiggly. But that... Because I wasn't sure if like it was a pen like based on a cartoon or something.
I found the cartoon.
Okay. And that did run through the 80s, but it was an Australian kids show.
And it's not a toy.
Yeah, so that it makes sense. The Squiggles pins, though, I did find
Squiggles.
those. Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking
But why was
of.
he calling it Mr. Squiggles?
Mr. Squiggly.
Squiggly, yeah. So nothing's right.
I think Quint is an unreliable narrator.
We didn't solve this one.
I know. So bottom line, I was hoping you had an answer.
Well, if anybody knows, tell us.
I'll also put here getting a phone call at dinner that you have to take at the bar.
Yes. I have receiving a phone call at the restaurant. Can you imagine what you would do if that happened? I would think for sure I was going to jail or something.
Or somebody died.
Something terrible has happened.
Yeah.
If someone finds me somewhere else.
They track you down.
Not by my phone.
At a place that has a landline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a different time.
On a related note, somebody characterized this week, I heard someone characterize the phone book as reckless. That's how I feel about telephones now, in case I haven't made that clear. The fact that someone at any point in time can pick up the phone and try to call you is reckless.
Well, one person's saving grace is another person's nightmare.
Right. Right.
The other things I have for 80s was cab drivers. And then that's Ted's story about he comes home from a ski trip where he's there with a bunch of women, basically.
Oh.
And she's thrown out everything on the front front yard. Mm-hmm. And then Garfield PJs.
Oh, yeah. Good catch.
So, Southern things?
I didn't have anything.
I had the way Ted says fragile.
Fragile.
He says fragile. And then...
I've never in my life said it that way.
No, can't say I have. Saying brassiere instead of bra.
This has come up before, I think.
It does, and I'm telling you, one day, and because there was one episode where I wound up looking up some things about the history of a brassiere, and I was like, we're gonna do an extra
Didn't
sugar
we say
on
we were gonna do? Yeah.
I gotta write it down.
Yeah, right.
Voice memo?
If only there was some way to record it for posterity.
Selena, in Q&A, open up the document drive and write down brassiere. Beep.
Cover that one.
That'll be weird.
Perfect.
References that we should talk about or didn't know about, wanted to look up, blah, blah, blah.
I have a handful.
Okay.
The first one is more just like me capturing things I heard that people should know these are songs. Put your head on my shoulder. Please, Mr. Postman. It's my party. I'll cry if I want to, and I want to hold your hand.
And did you know all the songs?
They're old-fashioned. Yeah.
Okay. Good job.
Please, Mr. Postman, I don't think I could sing, but I'm sure I've heard it. But all the other ones I probably could sing.
Please, Mr. Postman, wait and see. Oh, yeah. Is there a letter in your bag for me?
Okay.
Mr. Postman.
Got it.
Okay.
Cool.
Sorry. It wasn't cool, though.
I had to look up Gary Hart and Donna Rice. Mm-hmm. So this is a comparison Mary Jo makes to the idea of her and Ted getting back together, both being something that would never happen. Gary Rice was so I'm going to be honest with you. I thought these were old-fashioned TV show characters.
I could see that. They kind of sound like that,
I think I'm thinking of Donna Reed.
Oh, yeah.
And it just kept whatever. But Gary Hart was actually a former senator who was gearing up for a run as the Democratic nominee for president when he got himself ensnared in a little scandal with the younger former pageant queen. And I will say, when I wrote this the first time, I said when he was ensnared, and then I changed it to when he got himself ensnared, because I think a series of very poor judgments were made in this one. But he got himself ensnared in a scandal with the younger former pageant queen, Rice. This is what I mean. Hart had for years endured claims of being a womanizer, and he actually proactively invited the press to keep tabs on him, just so they could see how untrue the rumors were. Then proceeded to, like, go out and let Donna Rice sit on his lap and have pictures taken.
I didn't know where that was going.
So, for years, and it sounds like they continue to deny the claims that they ever had a romantic relationship, but there is a picture of her sitting on his lap that someone took of them while they were on a trip somewhere.
That's totally normal, Nikki.
I know.
I'm always sitting on everybody's lap.
This is what I'm saying.
If there's a lap to be had, there I am.
I think
I
I read somewhere too. She's from South Carolina. She's Southern.
I think that sounds right. Southern connection.
Southern connection. And then the last thing I had was Splendor in the Grass. So Mary Jo says it makes her feel proud to think Ted might be realizing what he gave up. Charlene mentions this movie. She talks about how Natalie Wood left a mental hospital, went to see Warren Beatty, how she must have taken some joy in seeing him with a bunch of kids married to someone else in dusty coveralls. Apparently the movie is a 1961 American period drama film starring Natalie Wood. I hope I'm giving you all new information. Starring Natalie Wood and Warren Beatty as two high school sweethearts navigating feelings of sexual repression, love, and heartbreak. That's all I got.
Did you read the actual plot?
What do you mean?
Like,
which part are you referring to specifically? Like all of it?
Yeah, I read like the entire, like this really,
I did.
Like page-long summary. It sounds like the most
depressing,
tragic. Wow. So I'd heard of Splendor in the Grass.
Life is depressing, Selena.
I just hadn't seen it. Well, that's true.
It's all depressing.
But this one was particularly sad.
It sounds rough.
Like
there's a mental hospital involved.
Well, yeah, and like rape and
like
it's just they do all the things happen, and so it just sounds really, really, really heavy. And so that much I didn't know. Was there anything else about Splendor in the Grass? Because I did find something that I felt like might be relevant for the episode as well. So in this article, it's talking about the Romantic poet William Wordsworth, and he's the one who coined the phrase "Splendor in the Grass" like 200 years ago. Mm-hmm. Natalie Wood actually reads this stanza at the very end of the movie. Though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind. First of all, I think that's very beautiful, but also that did feel relevant because that feels a little bit like what's going on with Mary Jo. You know, she can't return to how things were with Ted, but she can draw strength from what she learned from that time.
This feels like a moment to revisit the fact that LBT wrote this in pre-Google days. Mm-hmm. It's forever wild to me that someone can just, like, somewhere in their brain pluck out these facts.
I'm curious, like, was she thinking about some of this and putting this together? And I think she may have been, only because of these other hints that we've gotten along the way about how much literature means to her, how much film means to her. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, I don't know, that just sort of stood out to me when I looked up the plot of Splendor in the Grass. I wanted to add on to the Gary Hart and Donna Rice thing, only that we've had conversations, and I think in the previous episode, about how the media, in that case we were talking about the actor who played Pee Wee Herman, in this case talking about Donna Rice, the media hounded her for 18 months.
I bet.
Can you imagine not being left alone for 18 months?
I can, but only because I've recently read all that stuff about Monica Lewinsky and her experience.
Oh my gosh.
And I can. That would be untenable.
Oh my gosh.
That's, again, we go back to that point of, like, how much strength it takes to get out of bed in the morning and put one foot in front of the other.
I mean, I think what we have come to know about her more recently, I think is just pretty darn amazing. Okay, did you have anything else that you had in your references? Let me ask you a question. Your kids know what the Flintstones are?
Probably not.
Okay, so the Flintstones get a mention in this episode, and I just got to thinking about these things that I take for granted, you know, because your kids listen to the podcast.
Right. They do. They want to listen to mommy radio.
Oh, but I do think about, like, this idea of, again, like, just not thinking that everybody is working from the same information. And so I wound up looking into the Flintstones, you know, which is a cartoon. I would have thought that cartoon ran for 25 years.
Oh.
But it was actually only on from 1960 to 66. I think it seems like there was a lot more because of so many reruns, tons of specials. There's been all kinds of spin-offs.
Excellent live action movies.
So good. I do love John Goodman though.
I do.
The
first one was really good.
I don't really. Was Halle Berry in that one? I think.
Yes.
Okay. It was a good one. So the Flintstones was also the most financially successful and longest running network animated TV series for 3 decades until
The Simpsons.
Yep. And they surpassed them in 1997.
Oh, wow.
Simpsons been around a long time.
Sure has.
And then, speaking of references that we couldn't find, I had another one, which was Mary Jo refers to some of those rock song lyrics, Mothers Arise and Eat Your Young.
Uh-huh.
I just couldn't find it.
I Googled it and I got some Bible verses back.
I think I got something weird like that too.
Yeah. So I just moved on.
Yeah. It's religious.
I figured
Mary
it
Jo,
wasn't
it's
for me
fine.
to question.
Yeah. At that point, I was like, I don't know.
It's just not for me to know. It's in God's hands now.
That's right. But if you know where it's from, tell
Let us know.
Yeah. And I think that other one so you mentioned all of those songs. I just want to say there's no reason that Tammy shouldn't have known I Want to Hold Your Hand.
She would have been prime age for that, I would have thought.
I don't know that she was prime age for that because I think she would have been
great with math.
More around my mom's age. And I mean, it wouldn't have been music of her generation, but we've talked about this before. That we just don't buy into that, like, who's before I was born? I mean, who's Elvis Presley?
The Beatles was, I owned a Beatles CD when I was in middle school.
There's just
no reason.
There's zero
Michael
excuse.
Jackson was one of my first, like, there's no reason you wouldn't know music from a previous era.
Right, so it's just weird.
I hate people.
On that note, you want to talk about cut lines?
I do. These are so random, but the first one was while Anthony and Quint were talking about the word Phooey. Anthony says the president of the United States uses the word Phooey. And he basically says, like, he doesn't use language, like harsh language, so he can, look like a leader or whatever. I'm only bringing this one up because I had just recently read an article about presidents caught cussing. And Ronald Reagan, who would have been president when this episode was written/aired, may have said Phooey, but I think he said some other things too. The article specifically said that at an economic summit in London in 1983, discussions about the Soviet Union got pretty heated between Reagan and the Canadian Prime Minister. It prompted Reagan to pound his fist on the table and yell, "GD it, Pierre," at the politician. Despite this outburst, Reagan refused to ever write down a curse word, even in his own private diaries. I think we know presidents use cuss words, but it is pretty much seen as undignified. And it was just funny. I had just read that article recently when I saw that cut line.
Yeah. It's funny that that's what you took from it, and what I took from it is that it was a subtle Reagan slam.
Oh.
Because Quint says something about, "We don't look very tough." Or something like that. And I just am going to go out on a limb and assume that LBT was not the biggest Reagan fan. But maybe.
I'm going to say I've never seen a president who looks tough. So
that looks tough?
Yeah.
I never even thought about it before. I just need you to be smart. Just be smart.
I need him to be able to land a good left hook.
Care about people.
All that stuff doesn't matter.
I just want somebody I can sit down and have a beer with. You know what I'm saying? Anyways.
The second one I had was Mary Jo's telling the ladies about Ted's compliments, and Suzanne says she got some of the same ones. It was also said, and then he said I was, your favorite line, enticing, sort of fragile and playful like a puppy. Yeah, I got that one too. And then he said I had a better looking behind than anyone in Tokyo, which is apparently a big compliment because Ted says Tokyo is the good looking behind capital of the world. I'm just bringing that one up because I think the recycling of compliments is important context in this situation. It's important to know that Ted's just telling everyone the same thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good takeaway. One that stood out for me was part of Ted and Mary Jo's conversation. This is what I was alluding to earlier. The cut's crystal clear why, but it's just adding to that creepy mound of compliments. But he says...
Creepy mound.
It's a creepy mound. Nobody's getting that candy bar. When I first married you, you were still a girl. God. But now everything about you is different. Your hair, your bone structure. My child bride has become an incredibly beautiful woman. It's just all bad. It's bad.
Maybe when I'm 60, I want you to call me your child bride, but not referring to like when I was... Why won't you tell me I'm young looking?
Yeah.
Is it my child bride?
I don't really like to think
No.
about child brides.
No, that doesn't work.
It's just
Porcelain-faced,
good.
youthful, beautiful thing. I'll work on it. I got a couple more years before I'm old enough for that.
You just got the face and body of a 22-year-old.
There you go. That's good. I like that. But not you at 22. Someone else at 22.
It's a very specific 22-year-old. I see what you're saying.
I'll just cut a picture out.
Here's the thing that me and my friends realize at every passing decade, is that at that time we were like, ugh,
I know.
God, I look terrible.
I
And
know.
then you look back 10 years later and you're like, idiot.
Yeah.
So people, look at yourself right now and just comfort yourself in the fact that you're gonna look worse later. So enjoy what you're currently looking at.
It's like that episode of Schitt's Creek when Moira thinks naked photos have made it out on the internet of her. And she tells the girl that works at the front desk, she says, you may think you're pale and creepy now, but 10 years from now, you're going to wish you had those photos.
That's right.
Same.
Yep. Well, I'm very tan, but other than
Sure,
that.
right.
So I don't have any more cut lines. Okay. There were like other ones, but they weren't important. Okay.
So next episode 22, our season finale.
Woohoo!
It's called Reservations for 8. We'd love everyone to follow along with us and engage. Instagram and Facebook at Sweet Tea and TV. Email sweetteatvpod@gmail.com. And our website is www.sweetteatv.com. I'm going to throw in right here that Selena and I recorded some social media before this episode recording. I don't know how influencers do it. It is tough. Looking at yourself on camera, realizing that's how you talk, realizing that's what your face looks like, it's just tough. So it's a mountain to climb for us. So we're putting a lot into it. We need you all to look at it. That's the bottom line.
If I'm going to put my face out there.
Honestly. So then I'll come back to you. Feel free. Leave us a rating or review anywhere you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends about us. If you know someone who loves designing women or would love designing women, tell them. And hang tight for extra sugar. What you got this week?
This week, I'm super excited to say we'll be talking about cartoons from the 1980s.
Oh my, that sounds so old.
I mean, retro. Perfect. Throwback. All right. Well, we'll see you around the bend. Bye. Welcome to this week's edition of Extra Sugar. I'm so excited.
You seem very excited about this one.
I'm very excited.
Is it about this segment or the cereal that you're most excited about?
The segment, the cereal, the good times. I just miss being a kid.
Yeah.
And that's what was going on in this episode is like, okay, so usually I feel a little ho-hum about a random kid plot.
Mm-hmm.
But I was stoked this week because Quint's out of the blue appearance in this episode led to 2 cartoon references. Maybe 3, depending on this whole Mr. Squiggly thing. Squiggles, whoever he is. And that's all I needed. Just open that door for me.
Sure.
And we're talking 80s cartoons. So I will tell you.
Where else would you go?
I don't know. Well, possibly the 90s. It was a little hard because I was going to do 80s and 90s, but they're in the 80s.
Right.
And I like to create a rule because that's fun.
I'm realizing now I'm not sure all mine were strictly 80s cartoons, my favorite memories.
Well, I'll tell you.
Okay.
It's okay. You'll get a pass.
Okay.
So specifically, they mentioned Flintstones and Garfield. We talked about Flintstones and the references. We talked about Garfield a few episodes in a row now, or at least recent episodes. So I just wanted to ask first, are either one of those favorites for you? Flintstones or Garfield?
No. I mean, I've watched them. I wouldn't call them favorites.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I love the Flintstones. I mean, I would watch Garfield, but I wasn't like super crazy about it or anything.
Yeah.
I will say though, remember how it was Garfield and Friends?
Yes.
There is an inordinate amount of time where suddenly the duck with the like swimming tube around him comes into my head.
Oh.
There's no reason.
Because he's delightful.
Maybe, yeah. Like, who doesn't want a duck who doesn't know how to swim? You know?
I can't. That's true. I can't think of the Flintstones without simultaneously thinking of
The Jetsons?
the Jetsons. Thank you.
But I feel like, you know how there's that sentiment that, like, you're either an Elvis fan or a Beatles fan.
Right.
So in my mind, you're either a Flintstones person or a Jetsons person.
Oh, is that right?
It's just
What a closed-off world you live
it's
in.
just in my mind.
So small-minded.
I'll just say I was a Flintstones person if I had to pick between the two. Like, I would watch the Jetsons, but it wasn't my favorite.
Right. Like, I don't have a favorite of the two because I don't love old cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Like
But
Looney Tunes.
But sometimes, like, isn't that weird that a cartoon even feels weird or old? Because it's not like it's in black and white.
Right. And it's not like they're covered, like the Flintstones is not covering 80s storylines that I don't understand.
Right. The whole genesis is that they're using, like, Stone Age things to mimic new things.
Right. Right.
You know, which is actually, well, I think it's really smart. But
I think the difference is they have that theatrical, I think we talked about this a few episodes ago, that theatrical voice that's very like, I'm a Flintstone.
Oh, yeah. You mean like the Wilma?
Right.
Okay.
A little over the top. I mean, I've watched both of them. They're fine cartoons, but like on a Saturday morning, I wouldn't have picked those two. I'll watch them because they're on.
Aren't all cartoons kind of over the top?
Yeah, but I guess this their way they talk sounds old. Just sounds like the 40s or the 50s.
You know, it's just like someone in the 60s just trying to sound like they're from the Stone Age.
Really, this is
it's
what
that
I'm saying.
same old story.
Time and time again.
I thought what we could do is actually do some scene setting first.
Okay.
Do you have any memories about, like, Saturday morning cartoons? Do we need to tell people what Saturday morning cartoons were?
I don't think it would hurt. I know we have a younger listener or two.
Okay. So it used to be that there was this magical time between the hours of 8 a.m. and noon, and they were all ours. See, today, all time is for children, and everything is digital, and you can have anything you want at any time. But back in the day, you had to wait, and you had 4 hours a week that were just for you. I know parents are like, shut up. But
actually, I think that's why there were Saturday morning cartoons.
So they could go do something else.
Or sleep in.
Yeah.
Because you would go downstairs and make yourself a bowl of cereal.
You didn't need anybody else,
you were
right?
on your own.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and the cartoons changed throughout the years, but the funny thing is because what is old is new again. I'm going to look for 80s cartoons for when you come over today. Mm-hmm. Because I should say that I set up a cereal bar situation. I had some 80s cartoons going when Nikki got here today. And that was for her enjoyment in this segment and my enjoyment. And a lot of the cartoons from the 80s have been redone and here within like the last 5, 6, 7 years. And they look different, but they're the same.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that is there is that aspect to it. But now they're just available all the time.
Right. I was telling Selena, we don't do Saturday morning cartoons in our house. And I said, I guess we could. And she was like, but isn't like all day, every day cartoon time? Because everything's on demand. And I was like, yeah, but you could like set the expectation that that's what you do on Saturday morning. But it's not the way it used to be, which, I mean, like the network television stations would be cartoons.
Yes.
For hours.
Yes.
Because they were for kids.
Right.
You didn't have to necessarily be watching Nickelodeon or Nick Jr. or whatever. It would just be on CBS or ABC or whatever.
That was wonderful. So share some memories, if you don't mind.
Share
some memories.
I mean, there were 3 of us growing up, so finding a cartoon we all agreed on was not always the easiest thing to do.
This is where being an only child really kicks in
to do whatever you wanted. But I vaguely remember. That was many years ago. But I remember just what I was saying, like getting up and we were just sort of on our own for a few hours and you could just turn on TV and see what was on.
It's kind of like a flicker of independence, no?
Yeah. And, you know, you'd have to negotiate who's going to watch which cartoon. And, I mean, just good times. Good times. You had your cereal. Good cereal. Unless your mom bought the store brand. Did you ever have to eat the store brand? In the big giant plastic bag?
I did.
Oh,
and I think me and my mom went toe to toe on it, which isn't really fair now that I realize as an adult she was a single parent with 3 jobs. And I'm like, No box.
But you were a kid. You were a kid. Like, and
It's
they
true, I was a
taste
kid.
different.
And we were highly marketed too.
Yes. And so that's the thing about Saturday morning cartoons is
Oh, it's
that-
all marketing.
Yeah, like
Oh, buddy.
there's so many rules around advertising now that didn't exist then. And cereals were like the number one ad that you would see on Saturday morning. And if it wasn't Fruit Loops, it couldn't be Fruit Circles or Fruit Donuts.
Fruit
Like, it had
Stoops.
to be, right, it had to be Fruit Loops. And when you had that giant plastic bag, you were like, this doesn't taste the same. This is garbage. So
Even though it literally tastes the same.
I'm letting go. I didn't think it did.
And it's all garbage.
I will die on that hill. But yeah, I was like you. I was like, could we just for once have Fruit Loops?
Well, my mom wasn't a cereal eater, and so like that wasn't gonna be in the house necessarily. We talked about this off air. A lot of times, if I got cereal, it would be bran flakes or something.
right.
But I poured a bunch of sugar on it to try
Right.
and make it better.
Right.
And then if I went and stayed at my other grandmother's house, my dad's mom, Nancy was a hot cereal person. So
Oh, like oatmeal?
cream of wheat.
Cream of wheat.
Cream of wheat with brown sugar was like my favorite.
I've been eating cream of rice recently, and it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, not to distract. But I do remember most of the cartoons I can remember actively watching, like if you're specific to Saturday morning, is the old stuff. For whatever reason, it is the Looney Tunes, the Flintstones. And again, not my favorites, but I'd watch them because it's what's on.
Honestly, I think maybe a lot of that, and that's been hard to piece out for me, like this idea of what I was actually watching then,
Yeah.
because I remember more than 90s stuff, because
Yes.
we were really little in the 80s.
Yes.
Very, very, very
So
young.
young.
The youngest.
The tiniest, youngest.
Just the itty bitty babies.
Imagine just a baby in your
Like,
hand.
Just an acorn size.
Yep. Barely alive.
But anyway, so as I'm like looking back and thinking about what you're saying and it being a lot more of those traditional cartoons, it's probably because like as we started to get a little older, that is when the Nickelodeons got to the height of its powers, when you have Disney come and have its own
Right.
TV show
Right.
or TV channel and all of this stuff start to pop up. So cartoons and kid access to kid TV was already changing at that time,
Yeah.
but it was still a magical time. And it's really visceral for me.
Mm-hmm.
So like mine's different. I didn't have any siblings. It was just this gal right here, but I remember that joy. I remember it being a kid's time to shine. I would wake up so early. It was still dark outside.
Really?
And I can still remember that it was like a hair too early for cartoons. So I was actually catching like reruns of like the Three Stooges, which I hated.
Oh,
And I
not
just
the
sit there
church
on the
thing.
couch. Yeah, no. I just sit there on the couch like waiting for the good stuff to start.
Yeah, I get that.
And then I would go and get a bowl of cereal or something. And then I would bring it into the living room, wrap myself up in a big blanket, and I would settle in for the best 4 hours of my life.
Life is so different as a single child.
Yeah. There's no fight. If I was
I
fighting
remember-
myself, it would have been really bad.
I remember curling up on the other end of the couch, my sister yelling because I almost kind of touched her, my brother coming in and screaming because he didn't want to watch any of the old stuff. He wanted to watch Nickelodeon. What a special time. And my parents banging the floor because we were making too much noise.
And like all the adults were still asleep in my house.
So
It was just
special.
me that was awake. Just Grandma Selena.
Perfect.
Well, I'm curious if you can finish this from the commercial warnings at the time.
Oh, no.
I just
okay.
want to see if are we really of the same age?
Good Lord, Selena. And we're
You said
not.
you're
'cause
way
I'm so much younger
me.
than you.
Okay.
You
Well,
know
see-
how competitive I get.
Can you finish this? After these messages, we'll be
Be back?
right back.
I was going to do
No?
back.
Okay.
No. Uh-uh.
All right. Well, I thought maybe
No.
you'd be able to do it. Well,
That
okay.
must have been something they did in your era.
That's right. 3
Uh-uh.
months before you were born.
Golly.
Actually, that was in the 90s, so yeah. Well, it was probably you and your siblings kicking the crap out of each other. I got all the commercial breaks too.
There's a commercial. Let's have Fight Club. Shh, you guys, be quiet.
Excuse me.
Can't
the
talk
number
about Fight Club.
one.
outside of
There
Fight
you
Club,
go.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blippity blop blop bloop bloop. All right, so let's get into the cartoon portion here.
Okay.
All right, so I want to set the scene for the listener now.
Okay.
So
There's so much
Nikki
scene
has
setting.
constructed a bowl of cereal. Do you want to tell the people what is in your bowl of cereal?
What's not in my bowl of cereal? Cinnamon Toast Crunch,
Mhm.
Fruity Pebbles,
Mm-hmm.
Fruit Loops,
Mm-hmm.
Lucky Charms.
I think that's it.
I
You
think
named
that's
4,
it.
right?
I think that's it.
Okay.
It's delicious.
Yeah, yeah. I already
This
ate
is
mine.
what dreams are made of.
It's that real sugar rush. I think maybe I've told you before. I'm sure I have because it's one of my all-time favorite. Oops, why did you do that stories? When I ate a whole box of Fruit Loops and then I couldn't see straight.
Oh my God, that sounds terrible.
It was terrible. I was like, uh-oh. I just flipped the diabetes switch.
Who among us has not eaten so much sugar they can't see straight, though?
But like, I was like, oh, this is really happening.
Scary, right?
It was real scary.
Oh.
That is honestly
I'm glad
the
you're
reason.
still with us.
I know. That is honestly the reason I don't eat cereal is because it takes an inordinate amount to get me full.
Oh, and no self-control for me.
A serving size is like, it's the same, right? But like,
I'm pretty full after a bowl of cereal. I just can't stop.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't stop myself. And then like 4 bowls later, my afternoon snack has like paralyzed me for the evening until next feeding time. I'm going to eat again just to make sure my stomach's full.
I do like to think of your meals as feeding times. There's some truth in that for all of us, probably.
Just put her out to the trough. She'll be fine.
I guess that's better than putting you out to pasture, right?
That's true.
So tell me, what, to the best of your recollection,
Oh, now I'm
what are your favorite 80s cartoons? I'll tell you if they're 80s or not.
Okay. Inspector Gadget.
Started in 83, I think, so you're
I'm
good.
so curious if people, like kids these days, know that cartoon.
Absolutely they do. You want to know why?
Why?
They redid it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know it's popular, though.
It's not
so
the
maybe
same.
Not. Yeah.
Rescue Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
It was an 80s cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
I put Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think that was my sister's thing, but I remember it.
Oh, okay. So you weren't really a big fan.
I don't think
no
so.
favorite turtle.
I don't think so. I probably had one just because I had to watch it, so you got to have a favorite.
Sure.
Probably was the purple one.
Raphael.
DuckTales.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, woo. And do you remember Fraggle Rock?
I do. Not a cartoon.
It counts to me.
Oh, it's fine.
It counts.
Yeah.
You and your weird rules. Has to be a cartoon.
Throw the carrot. No, wait, hold on. Throw your cares away. Worries for another day.
So,
down at Fraggle Rock. Yeah. I think we had some crossover. I will tell you what my favorite ones are because what I want to do is I'm going to go through and I pulled different cartoons that I really liked or thought they had interesting information about.
Mm-hmm.
And then you told me in advance some of your favorites. So I looked those up specifically.
Okay.
I did watch Inspector Gadget, but I mean, it wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I would watch it if it was on. And I did like the little girl. Penny?
Yeah.
Nikki?
Yeah.
This is your time to just relax, except for when I ask you trivia questions.
Oh, no, I'm sweaty again.
Curl up with your bowl of cereal, all 4 types. I'm really digging that.
I can't decide if I should mute the mic or not. Is that too loud?
Oh, no, I think that was just perfect. So, I'm going to start with your favorites. And I am going to start with an Inspector Gadget. And I don't know if we should say, like, I think it'll take too much time. If you don't know what they are, you're probably just going to have to look them up. But he was like the first, maybe we'll do a 1-sentence overview of what each of these were.
I think his name gives it away. He's a private investigator who had a bunch of gadgets.
Yeah, he was like the first robot police officer, I think.
He was cool.
Yeah. So, here's your question. This famous person once auditioned for the show, hoping to play the part of Corporal Capeman. Spoiler alert, they didn't get the part. I'll give you 4 guesses. A. Jim Carrey. B. Kelsey Grammer. C. Vin Diesel. Or D. Seth MacFarlane.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
All right.
I could see him auditioning for cartoons, though.
Yeah. Definitely. So this is a crossover favorite for both of us. You mentioned DuckTales. Again, DuckTales, I just forgot the duck's name. Oh, not Daffy Duck. Donald Duck. Yeah. So it's based on his nephews and
Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and Scrooge McDuck, and they go out and they fight crimes.
And Scrooge McDuck swims around in money.
Which is still a lifetime dream for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was going to share a fact from this one. No question. Yay.
Okay.
This is actually a Designing Women reference connection.
Oh.
So, well, a reference made on the show. Okay. But the character of Ma Beagle was based on a real person. She was modeled after the infamous Ma Barker of the Barker Carpus Gang, who we talked about in one of the episodes this season. And this is the one where Bill and Charlene almost break up. So I just thought that was interesting, too. Like, this idea that they sometimes construct things in cartoons that are for adults.
Oh, yeah.
So someone might watch that and they'd be like, oh, that's funny. It's a play on words.
We won't talk about Animaniacs here because I think that was a 90s cartoon, which is why it's not on my list. But that cartoon is like infamous for doing that.
Yeah, definitely.
But Looney Tunes was too. So
yeah, well, you gotta give the parents something.
Gotta
right?
give them something, man.
And it's still really not enough.
God bless Disney. I mean, they give us a lot as parents, and Pixar.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
That's top of the line right there.
It really is.
Cream of the crop.
It is.
So you mentioned Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another... We like to fight crime in the 80s. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
These were two very cute chipmunks that fought crimes along with... there was their other mouse friend who loved cheese.
Oh gosh, what was his name?
Monterey Jack.
Yeah.
His name was Cheese.
Yep.
But so here's your question for this one. The theme song was written by Mark Mueller, who also did the theme song for this cartoon, as well as writing Jennifer Page's 1998 hit song, Crush. Mm-hmm.
Ah.
I thought I might get you with a 90s jam.
You know, she's from Metro Atlanta.
Oh, really?
I think she's from Marietta.
Ah. Well, there you go. Look at this.
I'm just telling you
it's firing on all cylinders, or
Okay.
however that goes.
I better get this question right.
So, your choices are A, Darkwing Duck, B, Gummy Bears, C, DuckTales, or D, Tailspin.
Oh, gosh.
They're all good, by the way.
Tailspin or Darkwing Duck? I'm going to commit to Tailspin, although I know that's not the right answer.
The answer is C, DuckTales.
That's not right. That's wrong.
Sorry, Mark. Get it right. You don't even know what you wrote. Although it's funny, like thinking back to this, like I could have seen Tailspin being it because it sounds very similar.
They're all jams.
Tailspin, tailspin, something done to another tailspin. Okay,
it is a jam.
They're all so good.
They are really good.
Gosh, there was
Darkwing Duck.
One of my favorite things that Casey and I ever did years ago. We just sat up in the bed and we looked up every single like cartoon theme song and like sat there and sang it, and it was a glorious day. The next one, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, no question. So, just enjoy yourself.
Okay.
So, this show actually started out as a joke between the co-creators, and it was actually a parody of early 80s comics and especially Daredevil. So, for instance, Daredevil fought a group of ninjas called the Hand. You may remember that the Turtles fought the Foot. Daredevil was trained by the Stick, the Turtles by Splinter. So, and then this is just an interesting like other fact that I had never heard before, which is, you remember April the reporter?
I do.
So she was actually initially an African American woman and scientist, and they changed her into a white woman reporter. So
cool.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Excellent.
So, there you go. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, by the way, because I said I would weigh in about what my favorites were. That was a favorite of mine. Raphael was a smart aleck, and so he was my favorite because I love that. And also I did love Chippendale Rescue Rangers, and so I should have mentioned that as well. Oh, I lied. You do have a question.
Uh-oh.
And now I feel bad because this question's really for your sister.
Uh-oh.
So this actor was the voice of Shredder. A, James Avery, a.k.a. Uncle Phil on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. B, Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker from the original Star Wars trilogy. C. James Earl Jones, aka Darth Vader or Mufasa. And like a ton of other stuff. And then D. Christopher Maloney from Law and Order SVU.
It's going to anger me, but I'm going to say Uncle Phil.
You got it.
I did, okay.
And I'm going to tell you what, I looked it up just to see. It is so obvious. I think
really?
just, like, I watched them in two different parts of my life, you know, and so I wouldn't have put it together at that age.
Yeah.
But when I heard it, I was like, Uncle Phil!
Uncle Phil, you're there.
It's crazy.
That's funny.
So this is like my A1, number one, all-time favorite. You've heard me talk about it before. It's Jim and the Holograms.
Oh, I have no idea what this is. Only because I know you. Do I know what it is?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Well, they did do a live action movie in 2015.
I'm sure it was great.
It was so good. Just a real classic.
Anytime you take a cartoon and turn it live action, it usually goes over like gangbusters.
I mean, what could happen? What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
So Jim is, just for those who don't know, she is a rock star by day, and she's a business person by day. She's a rock star by night, and she was given like powers to change back and forth, but like into Jim by some sort of hologram machine that her dad left her secretly when he died. This is a very intricate plot for a cartoon. She also runs an orphanage.
What?
Yeah, she's a real good do-gooder. Anyway, so
is she?
She runs an orphanage, and
orphanages weren't really well known for being.
Oh, this
great
was
places.
nice.
Oh, okay.
This was top of the line.
Okay.
So, they created the Jim doll line to be competition for. This is Hasbro, competition for Barbie. Although I read other reports that said that Barbie was competing with them, actually, because they were losing some market share. But whatever. Either
Do you know
way,
why I've never heard of Jim? Because I was a Barbie girl.
Oh,
so I was on that side of the camp.
Oh, I was Barbie girl too.
You
Whoever
cross lines.
It really doesn't matter who can tell me that my figure is wrong. Like,
as long as you get
in.
to pay for it.
I want it to be completely unrealistic, completely unattainable, and I'm like, yes, please sign me up. Can't do that. But either way, Hasbro was really trying to appeal to girls. They created the animated series then to promote the line. You said something earlier about how, like, some of the rules have changed.
For marketing and advertising.
It's funny to me that you see them as being stricter now, because when I was reading, one of the things that I saw was in the 80s, that's when things changed. There used to be like a rule that you couldn't do this very thing. Like, you couldn't create a show based on a toy. You couldn't do something to kind of like further and sell things, and then they took that away, and that's when you see this market just flourish.
I think I'm thinking more nutritional stuff. Like, I think there are some restrictions around how much sugar you can showcase, and
I could see
that sort of thing.
I could see that, but by goodness, if they can sell you a toy model of something, they're going to do that.
That's not going to kill you.
You got to have something.
Just the planet.
Just your soul. Hey, when has materialism ever been a problem?
Never.
Not a single day.
I'm a material girl.
That's right.
I'm in a material world.
Okay. So
she's got me hopped up on sugar.
We're all hopped up on sugar. So Jim's original name was going to be M. I wonder.
I'm sorry. It was going to be what?
Just M. It was going to be. It was meant
the
to.
J and the E were silent.
Well, I'm like trying to. I don't know.
Swedish?
First of all, it was supposed to imply music, magic, and mystique.
Oh, come on.
Let that sink in.
So her name would have been M3.
Oh, I guess. Isn't that like a spy agency?
Yes.
But I just, like, somehow I'm seeing people, like, sitting around a room, and they're like, oh, we can't do M. Oh, what are we going to do? Pim. Mim.
It's like me doing the Wordle each day.
Oh, Jim, I know. Oh, with a J. We'll make it fancy, and then we'll put it, like, next to a diamond. I don't know.
You bought it hook, line, and sinker, so it doesn't matter how it happened.
I absolutely did. I was all in.
You little sucker.
It's totally outrageous. So this is what made it stand out for the era. The show dealt with social issues, touching on things like drug abuse and teen runaways. It's crazy for little kids, though, right? But I wonder if it was more like a tween audience, and I was always watching stuff I wasn't meant to watch.
I'm going to say this always sounds like a slightly elevated audience from Rescue Rangers.
I like to widen my variety of intake. So after one episode, though...
Are you going to tell me this cartoon aired on HBO after dark or something? It's so crazy. It's a cartoon. It's for kids.
It's fine. Well, just hold on. Just hold your horses.
Oh, no.
So after one episode where a phone hotline for runaways was shared, 2 young children who'd run away were then reunited with their families. So that's kind of nice. I know. So there were 151 different songs in the 65 episodes of the series and 187 music videos. So it was really bringing together like... This is like the MTV generation stuff, right? So it feels like it's bringing together all of these things. The weird thing, one of the songs suggests that she's having sex with her boyfriend, which feels like probably a weird thing for little kids. Again, why maybe it was like at least tweens.
But she was an adult?
She's an adult, yeah.
How did I miss this? This is so weird.
Well, so it started in 85, and I think it only went to 88. So I watched reruns of it. I didn't watch it, like, I wasn't, like, in the cradle, like, Jim, you know. Yeah. So I was just, like, a little older. It was on Netflix for a long time, and I had it pinned, and I got through a few episodes, but I'm going to tell y'all, actually, I should have put a disclaimer at the top. They don't feel the same.
You know, children's cartoons in general. Once you get past the theme song and you're, like, jamming out, then it comes on, and you're like, did they just fat shame? Did they just...
I couldn't even get to the fat shaming because it was just boring. I was like, oh, this just kind of sucks.
Yeah, I get that.
So, another thing that really stood out about this one, sorry, this is my favorite, so I pulled the most back for it.
Tell whose segment this
it,
was.
It had an actual series finale, unlike other cartoons. I won't give you the spoiler alert.
Go ahead.
So they had, like...
Just give the warning in case anybody wants to put on their earmuffs.
Spoiler alert in case you want to go watch Jim, where I have no idea where you'll find it because I tried to find it this morning. Anyways, without paying for it. The holograms and the misfits declared a truce. But if you've never seen it, you don't know what that means.
You were worried about giving that away, huh?
Hey, you just yelled at me like 2 episodes ago for like a 30-year-old spoiler. Okay. Muppet Babies, next on the list.
Muppet Babies.
You know, they make a dream come true.
We watched this with our kids.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. Now, they updated that one, too, though,
we watched the updated one.
Okay. Is it good?
It is. Oh, for kids.
Yeah. So, this is a couple of things I did not know. Howie Mandel was the voice actor behind the characters of Animal, Benson, and Skeeter for 2 seasons.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And then when Mandel left the series, he was replaced as the voice of those same 3 characters by Full House star Dave Coulier.
Oh.
The guy who plays Joey. Yep. All right, I got a few more in here. The Real Ghostbusters. So Arsenio Hall was the voice of Winston Zeddemore for 3 seasons, and when he left the series, he was replaced by Buster Jones. Here Comes Dave Coulier also had a spot on this cartoon voicing Dr. Peter Venkman for 62 episodes, and it was named The Real Ghostbusters because there was already a cartoon called simply Ghostbusters, but this is the one emulating the movie of the same name.
Cool.
That was a favorite for me as well.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Oh. The cartoon. The Real Ghostbusters. Not Gustbusters.
Gutbusters. That's the cereal.
Talking is hard. Care Bears. This was tops for me. They started out as characters on greeting cards. Had no idea. Anyway, so they go from greeting cards to toys, then to the big screen. I loved the Care Bears movie when I was little. Actually, Care Bears movie came out the year we were born, so...
See, I think I missed a boat on that one.
Yeah, so this is something I watched later. This is, like, the Care Bears had a Care Bear stare.
I remember thinking as a kid, hearing these things and thinking it sounded really dumb.
This is where they would all stand together and project light from each of their individual symbols, bringing love and happiness into even the hardest of hearts. You sound like a real arsehole.
A real hard heart.
Care Bear stare.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking about the environment one where they all had rings and they would put their rings together.
Planet Captain Planet.
Captain Planet.
Captain Planet,
He's our hero,
gonna take pollution down to zero.
What year was that?
I think that started in like 90.
See, that's why I didn't include it on my list.
I also really love that, and we were learning about the environment, guys, and look how great we've done. The last thing I have on my list is He-Man, who was influenced by Conan the Barbarian. I never watched it.
Perfect.
Glad
we're talking about it.
I know, but I thought it was interesting for this reason. So toy makers at
Make it interesting,
Mattel
please.
originally wanted to create toys based on Conan the Barbarian, the movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, which, by the way, have you ever tried to watch that movie before?
It's got to be terrible.
I got like 3.5 minutes in, and I was like, nope, moving on.
Why did you get 3.5 minutes in?
I don't even know how I did that, honestly. Okay. So, no offense to the fans of that movie.
Oh, no, I'm sure it's great.
It's so good. So, however, when they discovered that the film would have an adult rating, they instead came up with He-Man, whose physique was influenced by the Austrian bodybuilder. So, I don't know.
Influenced many a physique.
I also didn't really have any technically, like, boy cartoons.
They get enough.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, DuckTales is kind of like equal.
They get enough. Yeah, all you just said at the very beginning of this segment, your favorite ones were when they introduced a girl.
Oh, right. That's right.
No, I thought there was a good mix in there.
Oh, thank you.
But thank God for adding He-Man. Solve that.
I just wanted to get a real classic 80s one in there for the early 80s crowd.
You done good, Selena.
For the early 80s. Okay, so, well, Nikki, here's how it is. There's really no other way to end this. You know what we have to do.
Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history.
DuckTales, a woohoo. Tales of daring, do bad, and good luck. Tales, a woohoo.
Danger lurks behind you. There's a strange...